what are intellectual property rights? Let's get to like some serious shit, right? What are intellectual property rights? IP rights. What is an intellectual property, right? Like, think about that. Like, how do you make something that's in here into something you can hold and you can protect and you can charge an admission fee or a license to have access to, you know? But basically, these rights and the rights to control intellectual properties or ideas are granted by law. It takes humans to have an idea that, wait, we should own and control ideas, to even have the idea of intellectual property rights. So it's the rights that basically, you know, that are the byproduct of laws that we have created, right? Our society has created, that allow creators to exclude others people from using those ideas, right? It's what takes your fire and your light and makes it into some sort of like intellectual property. It makes it into something that's exclusive, that's scarce, right? Intellectual property rights give the owner of those things the ability to monetize or profit from or earn revenue from these sort of intangible assets in the form of ideas. I mean, think about this. The Nike swoosh, right? The Nike company, the Nike brand is worth 20 some odd billion dollars. Like almost 80, 90% of that company's value is just the ownership, just the swoosh itself, the ability to put the swoosh on things, right? So just think about that, you know, like that's just an idea. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's that valuable, billions of dollars valuable, you know? So it's right to take something intangible like a swoosh, right? And it really is a sort of idea, and make it, you know, monetize, right? It allows us to privatize ideas, and it creates artificial scarcity. Artificial scarcity, we think of that more commonly with oil or diamonds, right? There's tons of fucking oil, there's tons of diamonds, but you limit how much hit the market and you make them more valuable, right? Same with ideas. And I speak, you know, the University of Oregon or any university creates artificial scarcity of knowledge. We all know that ideas and information are vastly available on the internet. You know, you could basically take this class or find all the content from this class from probably someone a little bit more eloquent and better looking, who had a better record collection, you know, and for free. Like someone who, like, you know, put all this together, or multiple sources who put it all together, right? Or all that, just everything you get in school, right? But the university makes it artificially scarce. This knowledge and ideas that want to spread like fire, like wildfire, etc., right? You have to be charged admission or tuition, right? And then you have access to the knowledge, and then you get a piece of paper at the end, you know, that says you did something, which is great. But I mean, I think the real thing is that makes the intangible, the infinite, to something that's finite, you know, something that you can charge money for, okay? Guess what? You have agreed to the terms of the license, and you don't even really know it, right? Intellectual property rights are an agreement between us, society, people, culture, whatever, and creators. And, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, most of the creators in, you know, our society are corporations, and they own, if they don't create something, they buy it, they own it. I think what we do is, as a society, we basically say, like, cool, we agree to not infringe on the stuff and not copy your stuff and pay you money to have access to it, and then it eventually becomes ours at some point, right? So you have the exclusive right to profit off of this stuff for a certain amount of time. We'll respect that. Our money will keep your lights on, keep you making art, keep you making movies, keep you inventing, et cetera, et cetera. But we've all agreed to this, whether we know what a copyright is or not, or care, okay? These rights, at least in the United States, but broadly, are to incentivize innovation, right? So you're granted this right for a limited amount of time, and in that amount of time, you have an exclusive right to exploit your movie, music, you know, book, etc., on the marketplace, okay? And that's it, right? Like you're basically supposed to, with that limited monopoly, see income or revenue, right? And you're supposed to use that money to keep creating. The unfortunate thing is that's not necessarily always the case, because you have companies like Disney that go, oh, cool, we'll just buy Star Wars and make like mediocre Star Wars content every 2 months.
Keep firing, assholes!
You know what I mean? So like, maybe that's not innovation. Or, oh, we're going to just re-release the Beatles' White Album every year in a new, vinyl format. Well, like, you should be actually investing in like riskier, unknown franchises or artists who are, coming up or whatever, instead of like, oh, let's just keep putting out freaking the same Beatles album. That's horrible. So it's supposed to incentivize creativity or creation, right? But we all know this, right? If you control the media and the technology by which you consume the media, you are powerful, right? Controlling knowledge and information, right? We know that that creates power, right? And that's really important. It allows you to control what people think about, how they think about it. And, I think the greatest example of this is the first media corporation, the Catholic Church. That's my opinion, right? And they created, one of the greatest books of all time, or exploited one of the greatest books of all time, or the most popular sellers, if it never had a copyright on it, right? The Bible, right? But the interesting thing is, initially when these religious texts, we'll just say religion broadly, pick on the Catholic Church, but these religions, like, guess what? Someone wrote a book. Well, nobody could read. And the only people that could write and read the books were like part of the higher, part of the religion. They were up there. And so the word of God was read from a book that only one person, a priest or whomever, could actually read the book. And they would read it to us peasants. And us peasants would go, oh.
We just need to forget about the Gilgamesh for a second and focus.
Forget about the Gilgamesh!
I'm just saying, what works on planet Gilgamesh isn't necessarily going to work for the rest of us here on Earth.
Because we couldn't actually read ourselves. So in that way, they controlled knowledge, and that created power. I mean, same shit happening now, but it's like, people getting censored on social media or whatever, whatever it is. But knowledge is power. But if you control the media and you control the technology, right, you can control the way that we think about shit, right? And you become a gatekeeper of information, art, culture, etc. You determine what is dope, what gets out there to people, right? And the internet really flipped that up. It democratized creativity in a way, like, because we can all create now. We all can maybe get access to a smartphone or a computer, and we can make a film, and then we can put it out on YouTube, and we can distribute it, and people can see it. And if we're talented, maybe we'll get noticed. Whereas before that wasn't always the case. You had to know someone had a movie studio or a distributor or whatever.